My name is Madison, and alongside me I have Amina. We will be covering the first part of Week 10, which is Technological and Consumer Tomorrows. On Trend, Chapter 3, Cool Hunting by Devin Powers. Subcultures are the driving force behind cultural innovation. They introduce new trends, behaviors, and aesthetics that often go on to shape mainstream culture. Cool hunters play a key role in the process by identifying emerging movements within subcultures. They spot trends before they go mainstream, allowing companies to capitalize on them early. For example, streetwear and skate culture started as niche subcultures but became global trends when cool hunters recognized their potentials. This connects to the hot cool model of technology where subcultures represent the cool, creative, and experimental. Cool hunters act as the link, bringing these cool trends to the wider public before they hit mainstream. Cool hunting is the process of spotting and capitalizing on emerging cultural trends, helping businesses stay ahead in a fast-changing market. Companies hire cool hunters to predict trends, giving them an edge in industries like fashion, tech, and entertainment. For instance, Apple uses cool hunting to shape product designs that align with cultural shifts. A great example of this is Instagram's minimalistic logo, which reflects the growing trend for clean, simple visuals that work well on apps and social media platforms. This connects to the concepts of speed in technology. Businesses must move quickly to capitalize on trends before their competitors do. Once a cultural trend is spotted, it is often turned into a product for a wider audience, losing its original meaning in the process. Turning a niche trend into something mainstream usually takes away its authenticity and raises concerns about cultural appropriation and exploitation. For example, hip-hop culture has been taken by fashion brands and turned into a money-making trend, without fully recognizing its roots. This links to the idea of destruction, whereas trends are made into products, their true meaning and context are lost or watered down.
So today with technology, we have these digital platforms like Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and they all completely change the premise of trends and how they're spotted and how we share it. These platforms specifically really allow cool hunters, or one can say trend spotters, to track shifts in culture as they happen almost in real time. Means we don't necessarily have to wait days or months or years or God knows how long just to see these new trends because they spread much faster now. And I think a perfect example would be TikTok dance challenges. Even in general, I feel like TikTok is a great representation of this concept that we're talking about because it really does link to the speediness of technology. But yeah, back to the TikTok dance challenges. They don't necessarily just stay on TikTok, even though they emerge on TikTok. They spill into all other areas, other apps, and then they even spill over into stuff like music, fashion. So you see these little songs that end up blowing up and getting millions of views because of a catchy dance that like Charlie D'Amelio may end up doing one day. And then next thing you know, there's also like fashion trends that are linked to the dances, or these influencers are making stuff like their own coffees at Dunkin'. It just really shows that if some person or some trend emerges, it is not rare to see these cool hunters take the opportunity to capitalize off of this. And yeah, the quick spread of these trends is something that didn't necessarily happen before social media platforms. And now we could see the big switch once we ended up getting technology as a tool. So this is also where the ideas of speed and futurism comes in. Today, trends don't just spread slowly, they could take off in hours. Even in the same day, when one trend emerges, you could see hundreds of people doing it by the night. It really impacts industries almost immediately as well. This speed shows us how trends are evolving and how we as a society are now quicker at recognizing and jumping on new ideas. You can even see this through professions as well. Now a lot of people have social media managers that are literally doing this. They see a trend and then they hop on the trend with their brand name and they end up catching publicity, they end up catching eyes, all because of this smart strategic plan. Duolingo is the perfect example. If you happen to see their social media posts, they are in on the trends and everybody knows about Duolingo because it really does work. But yeah, the platforms we use today are shaping how we see culture and trends in the future, making it clear that things are moving faster than ever. So in today's fast-moving cultural landscape, subculture cultures really plays an important part in shaping the trends that we see in the mainstream. You see this through Power's quote when he says, "Cool hunting begins with the recognition that youth cultures are often the incubators for new ideas, practices, and aesthetics that are later embraced by mainstream marketers." This means, in simpler terms, that if something starts off as underground or niche, it could eventually become something that influences the wider culture. And this is exactly where cool hunters end up coming in, because cool hunters identify these and then they help businesses capitalize on these early trends. And this proactive approach allows companies to not only stay relevant but also to connect with their evolving consumer desires. This then also touches on strategic business advantage, which cool hunters do end up bringing, because not only this, but as Paris states as well, the business of forecasting trends has become a way for companies to predict the future of culture and profit from it. So not only building on the trends that are already there, but being able to identify trends that may emerge is significant, because then it puts these companies ahead of the game. So if cool hunters are able to recognize emerging trends and hop on it, then they are way ahead in the race and are able to have an advantage over competitors who end up reacting a little too slowly. Then you have the overall power of digital platforms, which honestly, if it wasn't for the significant tool, then cool hunters may not be as successful as they are at the moment. But as the chapter ends up talking about the influence of digital platforms in accelerating trend identifications, Power ends up saying social media platforms like Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube offer real-time data on cultural shifts, allowing cool hunters to track and predict trends as they unfold. So these platforms really provide immediate insight into what's happening right now. And with this insight, cool hunters are able to spot these trends, hop on it, and then help businesses engage with these trends quickly. Again, capitalizing off of all the tools that they have at the moment. So although there are a lot of positives that comes with this concept, there are a lot of cons as well. Unfortunately, one of which being the fact that Powers quotes, "What starts as a subcultural movement eventually becomes a commodity, stripped of its original context and sold to the masses." This is basically when a niche cultural trend is taken from its original context. Unfortunately, it ends up becoming repackaged and then it's just sold to a broader audience. And then in this process, it's honestly losing its unique and meaningful cultural expression, just becoming another product to sell to the masses. So yeah, it's not necessarily great when you're stripping away something just so you can make it more desirable for the general audience to consume. Then you have the whole idea of ethical concerns and cultural appropriation. As Power states, as trends are commodified, they are often extracted from their roots, commodified, and repackaged without respect from their origins, raising issues of cultural appropriation. So not only are we taking these things and stripping them from their uniqueness, but we're also actually stripping them from deep roots that we might not understand or respect just for profit. This ends up resulting in cultural appropriation, as he said, and then it often leads to backlash from the communities whose traditions are being exploited for profitization. A perfect example of this could be the headdresses that Native Americans wear, because ever since Coachella originally emerged, people started wearing that as a trend. Cool hunters see that, they profitize off of it, they end up jumping on this trend, and now the general public wears it to raves and stuff like that when they don't necessarily understand the cultural meaning behind it, again, leading to this cultural appropriation. So it's not just about finding trends, but it's also about recognizing the deeper cultural context behind them and ensuring that it's being respected. Another con that Power ends up talking about is the overexposure of trends. As he states, the speed at which trends spread today means that they could be burned out almost as quickly as they emerge, leading to cultural fatigue and a loss of significance. So this overexposure ends up leading to a sense of disconnection, which is bad not only for businesses but for consumers as well, because these trends end up feeling superficial and they end up lacking in substance. So yeah, because of this, they're also not connecting with their deeper cultural roots that end up forming from the trends. So as you can see, there are definitely positives that do come out of cool hunters and trends, but it's not all rainbows and sunshines. There's definitely cons that come with it, and it's just a constant debate that we will have moving forward, especially with the advanced technology that we have nowadays and the advanced technology that we will have in the future. So overall, I found Power's look at the commodification of trends really cool and eye-opening, like how niche trends end up losing their uniqueness. It made me think about big brands like Supreme and Nike, for example, and how even they can become cultural appropriators because of trends, focusing more on the sellable product to the mainstream audience instead of the actual cultural context of these trends. The reading also emphasizes how fast these trends move now compared to the past, and that's all thanks to social media. And the speed feels like an extension of the how cool model, where something that starts off as cool quickly turns into a product, losing its cultural significance during this process. And again, as you saw throughout the reading, there are definitely pros and cons to cool hunters and this whole idea of the commodification of trends. But again, it is a constant debate, and it's really interesting to learn more about moving forward.